Hi guys, so today we're doing a long awaited video. I'm so sorry for the delay in this. This was requested quite a while ago and I'm doing it now. A Digger's Guide. So Diggers is primarily a very niche utility unit. He offers some good sustain, some good sustain and some really good neg stats. So he's got some interesting synergies and some interesting usages. Initially, I'll be honest, I wrote him off as a character. But I've come around to really enjoying him, and I hope that today I can kind of show you the benefits of using him. A bit of shameless self-promotion first. I have a Discord, and we're running a little competition at the moment about Limbo. There's some prizes. You can win a daily, you can win a monthly, and then even someone so kindly offered to donate an original commission of an artwork, which is amazing. So if you want any details of that, I'll put that in a pinned comment below. Let's get into the Digger's Guide. His first incantation, Long Live Peace. It's a single target attack. It does okay amounts of damage. That's one thing from Diggers. Do not expect him to be a debuffer like Bicorn Bloom that does a shit ton of damage. Diggers is not going to do that. He's going to do an okay amount of damage. You're using him for utility. But from level 2 and level 3, it inflicts 1 stack of weakness. And weakness is a neg stat, which is lovely. It's a damage bonus of minus 25% when attacking, and it's 1 stack on trigger. So one time it will be a reduction of damage, which is great. And again, we like neg stats here. You're going to see a synergy already very soon. His second incantation, Bubbleism. It's a mass debuff, and it's reality defense and mental defense shred of 15%. Unfortunately, that stays the same depending on the level of the incantation, but the benefit of going level 2, level 3 is that he'll inflict terror onto the main target for 1 round, or I believe it's 1, yeah, only 1, 2 rounds at level 3. Terror is a neg stat. And basically when the round ends, Moxie -1. So he's also controlling Moxie, so he's great for those battles with enemies that kind of generated a ton of Moxie and you're wanting to bring them down. So again, now there's two incantations, 2 neg stats. You're going to see why he's going to be great very soon. His ultimate, Sweet Dreams for You. Don't do accents. It's a single target attack, dealing a decent amount of mental damage, and it will inflict 1 round of Nightmare. Nightmare is a control stat, not neg, sorry. And Nightmare is basically, he cannot act, but be careful with this. It will dispel after they take damage. Think of it, the character's being put to sleep and they're having an eternal nightmare. So you want to be using this at the end of your round, so that you're not going to use this and then attack that same character, and then no, you don't want to do it. It's gonna negate Nightmare. And if the enemy's in stats down, neg stat or control statuses, this will last for 2 rounds instead. So this is an excellent way of controlling your enemy, especially if you're pairing him with someone like Satsuki. These two have a really fun synergy where Satsuki can offer, maybe let's get into that later. But you can see where he wants his enemies to have negative stats. He wants his enemies to have reduction of stats, which he can all do within his kit, which is great. And then if his teammates can help him with this, you're adding a little bit of extra sustain as long as your enemies can actually take those control statuses. Sometimes they're immune, which is very annoying. Insights. Here's where I thought he was underwhelming until I figured out, hey, he's got a cool use. Insight 1, when entering battle, he gives his max HP by 33% shield to himself for 3 rounds, and it will only trigger once, which is selfish. Insight 2, damage dealt plus 8%. You're not going to do much damage, maybe with his ult. So it's a whatever. It's a whatever insight. Insight 3, that's where we have fun. When entering battle, the shield from Insight 1 will no longer be for Diggers. He's going to share and care to his teammates, and this will be 3 rounds. This is where, at first I was like, this is useless. It's only for 3 rounds. But actually, this is an excellent utility, which we'll get to in the teams. let's look at his portraits. Honestly, nothing groundbreaking here with his stuff. Basically P1, P3, and P5 just to do more damage with his ult. P2 is more damage with one of his incantations. P4 is probably the really good one that you do want to, if you get it, you should be really happy. I was going to say you want to aim for, you're not going to aim for portraits on a 5-star character. You're going to be lucky if you get him at any time. The pity is awful, but his P4 is really pretty good. Basically at one of his incantations, the enemy will get 1 additional stack of weakness, which means instead of 1 they're going to get 2 stacks of 25% damage reduction when they attack, which is great. Now in terms of resonance, we're not really going to need to cover it. He's a support character. If you want to R10 him, go off, good for you, go, you do you. Otherwise I would recommend get him to 8 and you'll be okay with him. He's not going to do damage, so you want to just have sustainable resonance stats in there. I'm a psychopath. Mine's pretty much just a mix of everything, but you want him to survive, so you could stack on extra HP for him, because that's going to also make his shield buffier. Beefier? Just want to watch Buffy the Vampire Slayer, clearly. Alright, Psychubes. So if you want to do, you've kind of got 2 options. If you want to run damage, which Psychopath, use Luxurious Leisure, because basically it buffs single target ult damage and also gives that juicy 18% ultimate might, and then it's going to just increase his damage by each thing. One downside to Diggers is he shines best in shorter fights because of the shield that he offers. So Luxurious Leisure is a good way to kind of offset that, so where once his utility of the shield wears off, Luxurious Leisure can also like stack up and take some time to kind of ramp up. It's a great way to kind of make him better in longer battles because he's going to be doing more damage over time. Alternatively, you could do a very generalistic His Bound and Duty, which is just going to be a damage bonus of 12%. Cool, and then he might get some extra sustain from it. I also believe that this has, also one thing with Luxurious Leisure is it also has a higher HP. I'm really just selling you on Luxurious Leisure, and we want that extra HP for his shield. If you don't have any of these and you just want to throw him in there for extra sustain, you could really use a free heart because it gives extra HP and it's still got that beefy 2200 HP stat, and this is purely if you're putting him in there for his utility. It is a 5-star Psychube, so just be aware of that. I've seen some people run Beyond Wonderland on him because it gives so much HP, and if you're really trying to like whack out the fight with just his shield at the start, I wouldn't really recommend it. But if you've got it and you've leveled it and no one's using it and someone else in your team is using Lux Leisure, then you could use Beyond Wonderland as well. We're giving options today because honestly I want to give more than just saying use Lux Leisure if you've got it. Some people might say you could use Blasphemy of the Night. I would say no. Mainly because the benefit of this is you're going to have 2 neg stats on the enemy. Unfortunately, even though he's got neg stats in his kit from level 2 on his incantations, that's not really enough to stack. You're not going to be stacking 2 things easily, and if you are, the team that you're going to be running him in, the DPS is going to want this, not Diggers. Speaking of DPS, I think what we need to do, because I've been rambling for long enough, let's get into the teams and see where he works best with some certain synergies that you might note, and let's go from there. So our first team for today, it's going to be the strongest synergy that I really love in this, I really love for Diggers, which would be his synergy with neg stat characters, neg stat DPS characters that can utilize Blasphemer of the Night. We're talking Jessica, we're talking Sweetheart. Honestly, I think the synergy with Sweetheart is amazing. And the other synergy that I really particularly love about this team with Sweetheart and as with Desert Flannel as well, is that The synergy that Diggers has, first he enables the neg stats for Blasphemy of the Night Psychube to proc, but also because his shield is for 3 rounds, it gives you enough ramp up time for healers such as Desert Flannel, even Bunny, healers that only heal through their ult. It allows you 3 rounds of defense. It allows you 3 rounds where that healer can ramp up and get their heal ready for whenever you might need it. So that utility of the shield that I originally thought was useless actually comes in handy so well, and I really enjoy this team. I think it works so well together, and I really recommend you trying it out. His neg stats are going to help the team. He's going to help Sweetheart get extra damage, and also the synergy between Desert Flannel and Sweetheart is amazing. So slotting in Diggers here, I would honestly recommend him more than even a higher DPS character like Bucorn Bloom, because that's usually his downfall, right? Usually people are going to say, well, you've got to plant debuffer, use Bucorn Bloom. You know what? I would say use Diggers. And you know what? If you don't have Sweetheart, build Satsuki. Just did a guide on her because she could slot into this team perfectly instead of Sweetheart. This next team is a plant poison style team. This is of course using, honestly I run Diggers in this team all the time. I either run Diggers or I'll run Rabies because love my dude Rabies. But again, it's a similar reason for the previous team. Diggers is going to reduce the defense, which is going to help Sotheby, and also it's going to help Jessica's damage. It's also going to, the neg stat is going to make sure that, I mean look, Jessica's proccing that neg stat regardless, especially if Sotheby's there. But the other fun thing about this is, again, Sotheby's healing is not the best, and you kind of want to be focusing on stacking poison for Jessica. So rather than Sotheby having to pre-heal and getting her cures ready to go, you could actually be stacking more poison with Sotheby, focusing on attacking rather than healing. So Diggers allowing this to happen is pretty great for this team. Alternatively, you could also use Diggers and Sotheby as a really solid duo to kind of force the, I call it like a force side tubing for a DPS character that you want to use Blasphemy of the Night, because they're going to apply enough neg stats through Sotheby's poison and his terror and I believe weakness. So you could really slot any DPS character here instead of Jessica if you really want to force Blasphemy of the Night. But no, Diggers is excellent in poison teams. Definitely try him out. Now this is a bit of a different example of Diggers. This is using Diggers as the support utility unit for a crit carry. I'm using Eagle here because I want to just use lower rarity characters wherever possible. You could slot any crit carry into here. You could put Blonnie, you could put Regulus, you could put Lilia. The good thing about Diggers is that his debuff for defense is universal. It's reality or it's mental, so really he's quite flexible in that regard. Tooth Fairy's here because she's the ultimate crit support. I mean, and Diggers is just here because he can offer a little bit of extra sustain as well, especially if sometimes crit teams can run a bit squishy, so he kind of offers a little bit of extra sustain, especially with his nightmare from his ult. If you need to freeze an enemy while you do some extra healing, that's Diggers. He's going to be able to help you with that as well, and especially for squishy DPS like Eagle, yeah, you're going to need a little bit of help. Another team that I didn't really showcase here is Diggers with Satsuki. I figured I've already ran that in my Satsuki guide, so you could watch that, but I didn't want to like flog a dead horse there. But slotting Satsuki into this team instead of Eagle is a lot of fun because crit Satsuki does a lot of damage. In that regard, you'd want Satsuki to be using you'd want Satsuki to be using Lux Leisure, and then Diggers could run a more supportive side tube instead. But I think he's really quite helpful. And let me know what crit carries you like to run, and if you're running Diggers, by the way, I want to know what characters you run with him, because I feel like a lot of people in the comments are like, oh my god, love Diggers, but like they don't know how to use him, or they don't use him. So I hope this helps, and if you do, let other people know so like the conversation can continue. Next team, this is a real niche one, like the niche of niche teams. We are literally using X as control because Moxie and the utility of like Dispel, and then John Titor because John Titor shield through ult, so similarly as the other characters. The shield for the 3 rounds from Diggers helps John Titor to stack and get her ult ready, so that you've got shield into another shield. And then X is there because you're just going to be doing double control. You imagine, you know, Nightmare freezing, not freezing, I shouldn't use that word, nightmaring, I fucking know, not allowing the enemy to act, and then at the same point X taking away their Moxie and not allowing them to gain more Moxie with Disconcert. They've got a really great synergy, so you could use honestly Diggers with X and then slot in another DPS character. The main reason that I'm showing these 3 is that I want you to see that in a 4-person team you could use a combination of Diggers with John Titor and then 2 others. You could use Diggers with X and 2 others. Or if you want to run a real fun team that's a little bit fragile and a little bit like, hey, I like these characters, let's use them. These 3 characters work together. I kind of really enjoy that aspect about making these videos. Is I do my templates of like, okay, what are the strongest teams, what are the most functional teams, and then towards the end I like to be like, what's this experimental team that I can kind of play around with. And I really enjoyed this. I really enjoy that team just because it's 3 niche characters that actually did a great job together, and I just love seeing X do extra damage. That was a pun. Now here's another team example. This is kind of using Diggers and Ezra, where Ezra's got a really, look, Ezra takes some ramp up time, and again this is a synergy where Digger's shield for 3 rounds is really going to allow characters like Ezra to ramp up on their skills. So in Ezra's case, he needs X amount of rounds to get the mushrooms to grow to get those buffs. So because his team has not much sustain, you're kind of wanting to have a DPS that has some sustain options. So Centurion, you could use Eternity, you could use Pavia, you could use anyone you could use Mondlik, or if you're real gutsy, use any DPS. But I like that Diggers lets Ezra focus on getting out, like doing a little bit more damage and also setting up the buffs. And then you can also then try to use Ezra as a sustain with his shielding. It's a bit risky, but I feel like this team is high risk and then high reward because it does a lot of damage, and it's really fun to play once you get it right. It's one of those teams where it takes a bit of practice, but then when it works, and Diggers is probably the only character that could enable that to kind of work. But that's kind of the end, honestly. Like I said before, I thought Diggers, I look, he was left outside to learn Anastasia style, but by the way, this is his skin because he looks like Julia Fox, and I had to get the skin because, my god, Julia Fox, Queen. She has a song out, by the way. If you, I'm rambling about Julia Fox in a Diggers guide, of course it is. This is what you come here for, the rambling. Diggers is great. Don't sleep on him. Let me know in the comments how you use your Diggers and what you thought of this and what you want to see next. And of course, come over to the Discord, come say hi. And the competition, by the way, ends May 22nd, so you've got a few more days to get into it. If you're watching this in the future, I'm sorry, but still come say hi. We're probably going to do another one each month. It's kind of just a fun way for us all to have some extra fun with this game. Anyway, I'll see you in the comment section. Bye bye.